Today is the most sacred day of the year. Not because it's a Hindu holiday. The Hindus don't understand the meaning of Mahashivratri. We're not celebrating some historical event or some mythological scenario that happened in the past. We're making something happen now. Or not. You know, there are many people who have lived here for a long time and they are clueless as to what is really going on here. And there are some people who arrive and they get it the same day. Most people are too obsessed with their own ego scenarios to pay attention to the deeper levels of reality. They don't even know they exist, or their egos create imaginary versions of them, or their egos reject what is too vast, too powerful, too filled with love, too shattering of their frame of reference, and they shrink away from what is offered. They do not meet the challenge. The Hindus say that at the end only 8 souls actually get it. 108 get close. And what is the it that we are to get? We know that the universe is not made of matter. We're not really living in a physical world. But egos still tend to believe that, even though it's been disproven by science itself. The world is consciousness. It's an artifact within consciousness, an appearance. But what is consciousness? If you identify with your appearance in the world as a body, then you are not attuned to your consciousness. And therefore you are out of touch with reality. Because you are still an artifact of consciousness as an ego, there is still the possibility of connecting, because you are an effect of the cause. In the same way that a particle can be an effect of the wave, but the particle cannot get the wave, let alone the ocean. We know that consciousness is made of waves, wavelengths, and that in this very space there are perhaps an infinite number of waves, vibrational frequencies that are simultaneously flowing. And there is a background radiation from which they all derive. Are you able to attune to the different frequencies that carry different levels of information and power that enables the metamorphosis of appearance and the downloading of information that prepares one's vehicle for accurate action, to achieve the fruition of its own deepest yearning, and to be in tune with that ultimate cause of all of the vibrational waves. Resonance with which brings not only peace, but bliss, power, love, fulfillment, and liberation from all the illusion. And so you could say that Mahashivratri is the day in which we are to do the fine-tuning to that supreme frequency. Other religions have days of atonement, but there are few that focus on attunement to achieve at-one-ment. But the relationship between the waves that are being received and the receiver itself must be understood. And the receiver's capacity to function as a transceiver must be understood. The universe as we know it, which is part of a multiverse that most do not know, but is present here at different vibrational frequencies, emerges out of a singularity and returns to a singularity. Do we understand the significance of that? And our relationship to that singularity as it approaches through the illusion of time and space, but more importantly, as it exists eternally beyond time and space, and brings us back to that realization and that transcendence of the illusion. Meditation is the act of fine-tuning to the highest possible frequency that your consciousness can tune into. But if you are focused on your ego mind, you will not be able to hold that frequency. If there are any obsessive interests in anyone other than the source of that frequency, you will sabotage your ability to tune in. It's for this reason that all of the ascetic practices, in order to reach the state of kaivalya, have been taught for thousands of years. Isolate yourself from all the interference patterns, from all the lower vibrational frequencies, from all the incoherent noise, and focus only on the supreme source of the information that creates, sustains, and transforms the cosmos. be at one with that supreme power. Because that is your function within this matrix. That is your potential, but it must be activated. It cannot be activated so long as you identify with the biographical traumas that have interrupted that connection. The mind must not be allowed to distort the purity of the flow of information, that if it is gained without distortion, transforms and liberates and empowers. And creates a metamorphosis far beyond anything that the rational mind of the ego can conceive of. Because its form of reasoning is too gross, too based upon the reason that deals with phenomenal dualistic appearances, but cannot grasp that which requires a much higher valued logic to understand the multidimensional composition of the true nature of reality. To be able to integrate that complexity of vibrational frequencies into unity requires absolute stillness. It is only then that the pieces fall together, that the information creates a tapestry. And more than that, brings about a manifestation of the subtle power within the depths of the consciousness that is attuned to its own source dimension. If the attunement is instead to the phenomenal plane, to the realm of objects, then that power that potentially can manifest within the mind to enable the activation of all of the higher potencies of consciousness will not take place. And this is the reason for the requirement of death and rebirth. If the ego interference pattern does not die, does not become extinguished, then there will be not sufficient clarity to receive and sustain the power that is being offered in the form of wisdom, light, literal divine light, and its laser-like applications, and the knowledge of how to make use of the powers of mind that you were never taught even exist. It is only on such holidays as this that not only does the cultural awareness open up slightly to enable us to have some kind of a pro forma return to an interest in that level of consciousness, but it actually happens that on this day the frequencies are downloaded in a way that they can be connected with. It is a gift of mercy that is being offered. This is why In many traditions, people will fast on a day like this because you don't want to be too heavy to meditate. You don't want to be dealing with indigestion. You don't want to be dealing with lust for food. And you don't want to be dealing with any other form of lust for any phenomenal object, person, thing, or memory. You want to have the clearest possible consciousness focused as sustainably as possible on the source of your being, so that a connection, a union can be made with that source that brings about an unbroken flow of the supreme power that alone can heal you, and it can miraculously heal you of symptoms of suffering, whether physical or mental, that no doctors could imagine as possible. But it requires the complete surrender to that power so that its flow is able to wash away every trace of the suffering that you have been experiencing through your own karmic abandonment of the source that resulted in the turmoil and trauma that you are now needing to heal from. It is this reason that the process is called penance, and that religions speak about a fall. It is a fall of vibrational frequency. And so long as there remains any anger, or any greed, or any attachment, or lust, or arrogance of the ego, or so long as your mind stupidly focuses on the glitches that appear in the phenomenal plane rather than the perfection that is present in the noumenal, you will be wasting your life. And this is a day to catch up on what has been wasted and lost and retrieve it. It is available for everyone. And Shiva recommends that you take advantage of the days like this that are offered to be able to refill your empty reservoirs of supreme energy and to top them off to such a level of fullness that they will last through the next illusory thousands of years, or enough to blast off into liberation from this plane entirely. Whatever is your preference, it's your game that is being played. But are you playing the game consciously or unconsciously? Are you a victim or a victor? Are you the author of the game, or are you a character in someone else's movie? This is the day to achieve your freedom and your union with that supreme source that is the power of creation. Do you understand what that means? The power of creation is also the power of destruction, the power of transformation, the power to design and manifest worlds. What kind of a world are you now living in? Are you satisfied with your world that your consciousness is producing? Or would you like to dream a better one into manifestation? And do you understand that your world is yourself? And do you understand that the source of the world is even more yourself? But there is nothing that is not the self. But if it is not understood, if one is in ignorance and one distorts one's experiences and one's imperiences, then you live in a world of not self. You will live in a world of otherness, of alienation, of anger and fear. You live in a hell realm, but it's self-created because of your own refusal to recognize who and what you are. This is the day to wake up from the trance of the ego. Because to remain in that trance is to squander the possibility of completing the circuit that will bring the ultimate power of redemption. But the circuit must be understood. Where it is broken, why it is broken, how it got broken. And the repair of that requires the complete surrender of the ego. That is angry that it got broken, but doesn't admit that it broke it itself. It is this dishonesty within the ego that is the worst of all sins. Take responsibility for your world, for your life, for your bodily condition, for your mental condition, for your karma in general. You can overcome it through humility, through surrender, through love of that supreme source, whose mercy keeps you alive even when you are an atheist. But even being a theist is of no help if it's only a mythological belief system. We're talking about something that must be real. It's an action that transforms your consciousness by extinguishing the ego. Nothing short of that will do. And if you wallow in the ego's fear of loneliness and fear that no one will understand you, or fear that you won't have fun anymore, or fear that you will go crazy, or you'll have a meltdown because you can't contain the energy, or any of the other ridiculous excuses that the ego uses to say no to this offer. Understand that windows of opportunity open and they close. That's the meaning of a holy day. Every day is holy. But if you are not in holiness and wholeness, you will not be able to recognize or make use of the holiness, the wholeness, the completion. Through the completion of the circuit between you and the source that will end your suffering forever and make you an instrument, an avatar of that source in its ultimate charitra, its ultimate act. that is the destruction and recreation of the world. To that source itself, nothing is happening, because the world is an illusion. It's not real. It doesn't really matter. None of it matters. But it has a profound effect upon the nature of the realms through which you will be traveling in your own future, in your own inevitable finding of yourself shipwrecked in another life, another world, another space and time, and wondering what is going on, and having to learn all over again from the clues that you receive. Where am I? Who am I? Why? If you want those questions answered forever so that you never have to be clueless again, never have to be a lost soul trying to find the truth, never have to escape again from darkness, if you want to abide as the light, this is the moment that the window of opportunity is open. Those who have ears to hear will hear and will leap through the open portal to the Supreme Real.